Hello and welcome to our session today on creating an interactive health science program, wearable DIY simulation experiences you can use in your program tomorrow. My name is Denise DuBois and I'll be your presenter for today's session. So here's a brief outline of what we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk a little bit about just who is your student, who is that Gen Z health science student, and what DIY wearable simulators can you make yourself? How can you help your students walk in the shoes of a person with a condition? We'll also talk about some best practices and finish off with some additional free resources. Now, Reality Works is all about hands-on learning. Our products are developed with hands-on learning in mind, from our infant simulators to our health science mannequins and other tools. We help teachers engage, creating lasting educational and experiential learning opportunities that will really engage your Generation Z students. Now, all of the health science resources we're going to share today include curricula, along with the training resources that make it a complete package. And we're going to focus today specifically on many of those wearable simulators that we have not only in our product line, but also how to create some of your own. So who is today's student? Well, the times are definitely changing. Yes, while we may have some traditional students or non-traditional students, a majority entering high school and college belong to something that we call Generation Z. Now, whatever you know about millennials, well, you can forget it because this generation is different in how they learn and how they view the world. So Generation Z, well, this generation is very tech savvy. While millennials were seen with things like 2 screens, Generation Z can go between 5 screens. Think of things like phones, tablets, computers, gaming devices. They can multitask between all of them, and they tend to have much shorter attention spans. They're used to things like tweets, instant messaging instead of long emails. Research from Microsoft has found that the human attention span is shortening. At just 8 seconds, they say it is now shorter than the attention span of an average goldfish, which in 2000 was 12 seconds. So as educators, how do we work with these goldfish? While it introduces some challenges, it also creates significant opportunities. So let's take a look at what we're going to do and how we best teach Generation Z. First of all, Gen Z views the internet and online resources as knowing more than the teachers. Have you ever had a student that challenged you in class or sent you an email about something they found online that contradicts the textbook or something you've said? They tend to connect more easily with teachers or professors as facilitators or guides. The most effective teachers will be doing tasks right alongside the students and showing them that it's okay to make mistakes. Instructors are, in effect, coaches, and we need to try to adapt our teaching to this new generation as best we can. Instructors also have to change the way they think of themselves, and this is no easy task. So it's all about the experience. Now, here's an interesting statistic. Students tend to read less than 20% of the text. Well, how do they learn the other 80% of the content? Students like to read less and prefer that active, hands-on learning. They want to be successful, but they'll disengage from the learning if they don't see the relevance. So how do we teach this generation? Well, we need to somewhat modify what we do. Keep the content small. Get rid of the lengthy PowerPoints if you can, or if you do use them, incorporate things like quizzes, activities, and hands-on demos every few slides to engage them. Provide them with more than just a textbook. Things like videos, online activities, group work, and models tend to work really well with this group. Also use a variety to keep their attention and give them an experience. Try to be flexible in your teaching methods and also in the way you communicate with your students. Now, don't forget about those soft skills. That's another aspect that we really need to concentrate on as educators. Students will come to you with varying levels of soft skills. Now, the skills can be acquired through observation, reading, teaching, training, experience, practice, and from other sources. But are we emphasizing them as much as we do those technical skills? A widening gap is being noticed between the expectations of companies during the employment process and the performance of the job applicant in the area of soft skills. Soft skills not only enhance employability for candidates, but they can also contribute to the overall success of a company or organization. Healthcare is a business where the customer's satisfaction is key. Since 2012, Medicare and Medicaid services began withholding hospital Medicare reimbursement based on their quality of their performance. 30% of that decision is derived from the measure of customer satisfaction. So soft skills are very important. The topic of using wearable simulators is our focus today, and these tools can help teach soft skills like empathy and communication, but they can also teach technical nursing skills such as injections, IV starts, medication administration, and a whole lot more. So what about research and the benefits of specifically using wearable simulation experiences? Well, simulation technology is well documented as a teaching methodology in health science education. And here's one quote from many of the studies that you can find. Simulation has demonstrated effectiveness as a method to train practicing nurses for new procedures, communication processes, and both skill-based and non-skill-based techniques. So there's a lot of rich benefits to using simulation, specifically wearable simulators. Now, wearable simulators specifically are a terrific way, again, to teach things like empathy, understanding what patients are going through. We believe this will result in better patient care. Wearable simulators offer a chance to teach key patient soft skills, and today you're going to have a chance to learn how to create a whole series of wearable simulators that teach a wide variety of health-related skills. So how do you enable your students to walk in the shoes of an older adult specifically? Well, that's where something like a wearable age simulation suit comes in, and age simulation activities can be extremely effective, and research backs it up. According to a study at it's a German university on the effectiveness of age simulation, specifically 83% of participants were able to empathize with life in old age very well, while 95% of participants had a better understanding of the physical conditions of aging after they went through a wearable aging simulation experience themselves. So those are very high statistics. So now I'm going to share some do-it-yourself wearable simulators that you can create. So here's one for visual impairment. You could purchase some very low-cost plastic glasses, and you could either put Vaseline on them or soap to simulate cataracts. You could also wear glasses made with the wrong prescription, or you could wear sunglasses indoors to simulate things like macular degeneration or glaucoma. You could even use sleep masks for total blindness. Another thing you could do is you could take clear safety glasses. You could buy window clean material on Amazon in a dark color. You could cut a hole out in the middle for glaucoma, or you can put a dark circle in the middle for macular degeneration. So there's a lot of different ways that you can make some low-cost visual impairment do-it-yourself simulators for your students to use. Now here's some ideas for arthritis in the hands and feet. Taping together the thumb and forefinger of your dominant hand and then binding 3 fingers on the other hand will restrict the movement and fine motor skills and give your students an idea of what it's like to have compromised movement in the hands. Popcorn kernels placed in things like socks and shoes simulate the foot pain associated with poor circulation, neuropathy, and arthritis. And then the next thing you could also try is you could put your hands in gloves that are filled with that unpopped popcorn kernels, and that will dull the finger's ability to also feel things, and that simulates arthritis as well. So those are just 3 very low-cost ways you could have your students doing activities of daily living like an aging adult that would be suffering from arthritis in the hands or in the feet. Here's loss of tactile sensation. Loss of that type of sensation and numbness in the extremities due to aging is very common. So to simulate this in the hands, you could try different types of gloves. You could wear several pairs of thick gloves while writing, tying a shoe, buttoning a shirt to simulate things, or even try thinner gloves while doing things like filling pill bottles or trying to open a pill bottle. But anything like that that can simulate impairments like numbness or neuropathy of the hands can be very eye-opening. Also, things like wrist and hand braces could be used for loss of dexterity or restricted range of motion as well, or some of the things you can do with hands. Now here's hearing impairment. To simulate hearing loss, you could easily use things like earplugs or even noise canceling headphones. Tinnitus, which is that really annoying ringing in the ears, can be simulated by simply playing a very sustained high-pitched noise of some sort. Now, hearing loss over time could be simulated by gradually turning down the volume on a device using music or the sound of voices. And you can even go on YouTube and you can put in tinnitus, and you can also find simulation of videos where you can play that type of noise, and also hearing impairment videos on YouTube are available. So try a few keyword searches and you will also find things like that for your students to try. Here's some ideas for COPD and emphysema. To simulate conditions like these two, you could do the following. First of all, have your students try breathing through a short straw as long as they can. And that is harder than it sounds. Or you can find a compression type of garment or even something called a binder that enables the wearer to physically experience COPD's typically labored, shallow, strenuous, upper chest only breathing, as well as the subsequent fatigue, irritability, and emotional distress that inevitably will result from the sensation of not being able to get enough air. And that one is very, very real. You can find these type of compression binders online, and many times they'll have a wide patch of Velcro on them, so you could they're easy to fit many different body types that accommodate many, many sizes. So just some ideas there for those types of conditions. Here's one for aging. To create your very own aging simulation experience, you could gather a series of things from Walmart or even some budget online sources. These could be ankle and wrist weights, ace bandages, back braces, weight training vests, along with perhaps canes, walkers, wheelchairs. Put these things together and they can simulate mobility challenges like fatigue, loss of strength, restricted range of motion, even osteoporosis. Astute posture will result from wearing a weight training vest for a while because it kind of pulls you forward and makes you kind of bend over. And ankle weights can help simulate a shuffled gait, as you see in some elderly people. But you can have your students put all of these items on and then have them do some physical activities, just normal things like walking, sitting, perhaps going upstairs, things of that nature, going through a door, trying to open things. Here's some ideas for mobility challenges. If you've never used a wheelchair or a walker or a cane, using that for the first time can really provide your students with an aha moment. And many of these things you could probably even find donated or at a local thrift store, or some of your students might even have them at home that they're no longer using. But you could gather a whole collection of these items and then simulate mobility challenges. It's very itening when you do these types of things and you have students try to open up a door or go up some stairs. Anything like that will really be eye-opening and give them a moment in the shoes of someone that has to use some of these assistive devices to be more mobile. Now, here are some ideas for stroke or hemiparesis, which is weakness or paralysis on one side of the body. So to simulate paralysis on one side, you could use a series of braces and bandages on the one side to make it difficult to do daily tasks and ambulate, simulating stroke or other related causes to that condition. You could even use a sling for the arm to secure that. And you can have an eye patch. And again, you could find a cane, and then trying to ambulate, well, one half of you is more or less restricted. Again, it's very, very difficult to do, and will provide your students with a very eye-opening experience. Now, here are several different ideas that you can use on pregnancy. Now, there are several commercial pregnancy simulators available, but here are some do-it-yourself projects you could try if you don't have those available. First of all, number one, you could take a backpack. We know students have those, and fill it with around 25 to 30 different pounds of stuff. The goal here is to fill up the space in the backpack, representing average weight gain by that third trimester, and then have your students wear it backward so they can feel the difference in their center of gravity in the front. Another thing you could do is you could fill like a hot water bottle with warm water, or perhaps a beach ball, and wrap it in a sling or some type of a blanket and wear it low on the abdomen. Sometimes you could even find like a medicine ball or small exercise ball that has some weight to it, and tie it to your lower abdomen. And then challenge your students with trying to do things like tie your shoes, pick things up off the floor, sit down and stand up, maybe lay down and sit up. And they will quickly learn how the change in body image and in their center of gravity changes how they move on just normal day-to-day activities. So these are some very low-cost ways that you could simulate pregnancy. Now, here's a breastfeeding simulator. This is a simulation experience that could be used in a scenario involving midwives, doulas, childbirth educators. But you could have an old bra, cut a hole in the nipple area, and then there are a thing called nipple shields that you can put into that would simulate that part of the anatomy. I've put in a picture of a commercial version. There are such things out there that do simulate what it's like to breastfeed, and this would be just one way you could create something similar like that for yourself at a very low cost. Here's an incontinence simulation experience, and we got this idea from a classroom teacher. Now, this simulation experience was recommended. It was a post-secondary CNA instructor, and she said her students never again thought the same way about patient dignity and incontinence. Now, this was especially important as her students were going to be working in nursing homes. So she wanted them to recognize the importance of being attentive to patient needs as well as pride and dignity. So each student got something like a Depends or so forth. And then she had them go into the bathroom, pour a small cup of water in it, and she made her students wear it for an entire class period just to see what that was like. And it may not work in every classroom, but she found it extremely effective. So again, thinking outside the box, something you could consider if your students are going to be going into the workforce with nursing home patients. So here's some best practice ideas for using those wearable simulators in your program. First of all, try to encourage group interactions whenever possible, so your students can build off of each other's experiences. We found using stations is a really good way to implement a variety of experiences to rotate students through. It can also make your classroom management a lot easier with less wait time for your students. So you could consider assigning students to a specific role at a station, like that of the patient or that of the healthcare worker, so they have a chance to experience both sides of it and then switch with someone else. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. Also, you want to make sure that you're providing a chance to debrief at the end. Provide opportunities for that reflection. You could do it as a large group, small group, or even pairs. You know, we found journaling exercises to be really good. If you provide some very key questions for your students to answer about their experience after a wearable simulation experience, that's really good. Again, you could provide both a pre and post reflection activity if you'd like. Here are a few good questions for at the end of the experience that you could consider. We want to make sure, though, that you definitely do leave time to facilitate reflection on the individual performance. Things like, how did it go? You know, how did you feel during this experience? How will this change future interactions with patients of the same condition you experienced? And that kind of thing. I think that's really key. Another best practice is to use wearables in some type of a scenario. We know that wearables, again, give their students the chance to walk in the shoes, to gain that empathy and that understanding. But there are also another whole line of wearable simulators that teach specific nursing related technical skills as well. So we've given you a lot of ideas for you to try yourself, but you can of course save time with other wearable simulation products that are available out there. So we're going to share a few with you that we have. All of them come with lesson plans that you can use the simulator in the lesson, and it makes it very easy to integrate the wearable experience in your program that way. So here are a few of ours that teach empathy. It's just a snapshot of some of them. We have a geriatric simulation or aging suit. We have our pregnancy profile that simulates that third trimester of pregnancy. Our hemiplegia simulator, of course, is the weakness or the paralysis on one side. We also have hearing impairment simulator, an arthritis simulator, and a visual impairment simulator, and a tremor simulator. So many simulators that put you in the shoes of a patient or a person living with those conditions on a daily basis. So that's the list that I just shared with you. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's a list of some of our more popular simulators that create that memorable, impactful experience of walking in the shoes of someone. But we also have the moulage kits that can be put on students as a wearable, or even a mannequin from which you can create many scenarios that involve things like here's one, it's skin conditions for geriatric patients. So you could put these on a geriatric mannequin or students on each other as a geriatric patient. You could do a skin assessment, documentation and treatment. That's just one of many that we have that can be used. We also have many simulators that teach nursing skills, from blood pressure to injections, all sorts of different things. Well, we know that wearables certainly are great at soft skills, but some of them do the dual purpose of teaching the technical skill along with the soft skill. So if you've seen anything in the presentation today that you would like more information about, you can call our 800 number, or you can reach out to us. Our email is up there. We also have a website, realityworks.com, but we hope that some of those DIY ideas that we shared, you could try a couple in your program, and for low cost and low effort, you can create some very meaningful simulation experiences, wearable simulation experiences that can help your students get that aha moment. Thank you for attending our session today. We appreciate it. Have a great day.